Hi, I'm Rick. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Living with Paralysis. Today is going to be part 2 of my story with my battle with Guillain-Barré and Miller-Fisher syndromes. If you landed here by accident and haven't seen part 1, I recommend you go back and watch that first. Before we get started on my story, I want to tell you something that I found out about myself after doing part 1. While doing the editing, I noticed that my speech and my facial expressions are, I'd say, worse than what I thought. It's a whole lot different seeing and listening to yourself on a video than actually what you hear when you're speaking. Also, seeing myself, I got to tell you that I probably can count on one hand how many times I've actually looked at myself in the mirror since all this has happened to me. I don't see myself daily in the mirror because my wife shaves for me. I cannot hold a razor to do that. And she combs my hair. She pretty much does everything for me, so that's why I don't look in the mirror all too much. So anyway, my facial expressions are much different than they used to be, and my speech is also, so please bear with me in these videos. That's what I'm left with. So here we go. After 5 weeks in the first hospital, I have now been transferred to the second facility. I don't remember any of this transfer. I've been told that the second facility wasn't happy about a drug that the first facility had me on. The drug was called fentanyl. They told Teresa and Wendy that the first facility should not have had me on this drug and that I needed to come off of it. So I was taken off fentanyl and went through several days of withdrawals from that. So what I'm about to tell you may sound crazy, but you must remember the condition that I was in. You need to try putting yourself in my place. Just imagine yourself going through the effects of being totally paralyzed, placed on medication to keep your sanity, and at the time only having one of your 5 senses functioning. The sense of hearing is pretty much all I had left. Back in the first video, I mentioned having vivid dreams. These dreams were actually more like a continuing nightmare, but I will refer to them as dreams. I'm going to go into some detail about these dreams because they were pretty much my reality. I had no way to escape from them. I couldn't wake myself up or open my eyes to get myself away from it. These dreams were so vivid that I still remember them years later. Before going any further, I need to mention this. My wife Teresa or daughter Wendy, our son Brad, or any other close family members have never been on any illegal drugs. I think these vivid dreams were caused by the use of fentanyl or whatever else they were giving me, or maybe it was Guillain-Barré itself. For a long while, I didn't know what was real or not, and what was either true or not. The dream started off with me in a wagon being pulled by a person named John. Although I never seen John before, I knew him only by name. In real life, John at the time was the boyfriend of Joni. Joni is a good friend of Wendy's. In my dream, John was a magician / hypnotist. I thought John had hypnotized Teresa, Wendy, Brad, and Joni, and our 2 granddaughters, Lily and Emma. The reason I thought this was because they were all walking around expressionless and would just seem to freeze in place for minutes to a time. I'm being pulled by John in a wagon because I'm unable to walk. John is taking me to one of his magic shows, and I guess I was there to do some work for him. The first time I remember seeing everyone together was in his house. Everyone is acting like zombies. Once they would all leave for the night, John would hide me under the floor of his living room. This went on for a while. John would take me wherever he went during the day and then would put me back under the floor at night. There were others under the floor with me, but they weren't alive. I remember one day going with John to meet a guy at a church in the town of New Munster. The person's job at the church was to ring the church bell. This person owed John some money, but he didn't have it to pay him, so John killed him. There was also another person that we visited on South Shore of Delvin Lake. This person also owed John some money. John also ended up killing him as well and burying him under a house on South Shore Drive. I thought my life was probably in danger, so I memorized the house number that he was taking me to every night in Delavan, but I had no way of getting a message out to the police or anyone. One night my family had all come over and I was pretending to be dead. Teresa said to John, "You better check him because he's great at faking it." I couldn't believe how everyone had turned against me and how I really had nothing to live for. I was able to slow my breathing and heart rate down to nothing. Lily and Emma watched me very closely for several minutes. And then Emma said to John, "Yeah, he's dead." The next day I would find that I'm still alive. I am now in a large room with other people that I don't even know. This place I'm at is at a park in the village of Darien. I still don't have the ability to walk or move myself around at all. These people here are taking care of me. Late in the afternoon, John sometimes stops in to see if I'm behaving myself. I was hoping that I wouldn't see him anymore, but he's still around. When the weekend came, I had a visitor. It was Teresa. During this visit, she told me that there were now two of me, a good half and a bad half. She said I was the bad half and that I needed to stay here. She said she would come visit when she could, but it would only be one day on the weekend, because this is all the time she had for me. Teresa then told me that she was spending most of her time with the Goodrick, along with Wendy and Brad. She said they were busy vacationing, doing drugs and gambling. She said they had almost used up all her savings, including my retirement funds. She also said that they were all working for John now, and he was supplying them with their drugs. This went on for several weeks. John and Teresa would stop in every now and then at different times. One day, Teresa, Wendy, and Brad stopped in and wanted me to sign some documents to sell our house. They wanted to do this because they had gone through all the money. I told them that I wouldn't sign anything. They tried drugging me, but I still wouldn't do it. Then Brad said there were full gasoline cans in the garage and he was going to burn the house down so they could collect the insurance money. They then left. I have now lost my family and everything that I had worked for. I remember wishing myself to be dead and dead for good. After a little while, my wish seemed to have come true. I thought this was finally going to be over, but it wasn't. I found myself alive again. Wendy and Joni would take me to different places, places where John had set up magic tricks. I was taken here to test them out for him. I found myself alive again. Wendy and Joni would take me to different places where John had set up magic tricks. I was taken here to test them out for him. Wendy and Joni would lift me onto whatever trick that John had set up. I would be doing the tasks on it until the trick was perfected. Sometimes it would take days. I wish I could remember what these tricks were. They seemed to make sense to me at the time, but I don't remember. I do remember being taken to several different places to help perfect other tricks. All this went on for quite a while. One day I woke up, but not really. I found myself back in a hospital room. I found out that I had now become the good Rick, and the bad Rick had died. Teresa is now with me most of the time, but she needs to leave at night to work for John. She doesn't realize I know this. She would leave when she thought I had fallen asleep. Teresa was still working for John to support her drug habit. It seemed as though I had movement during the day, but I would find myself unable to move at night. This is because it seemed like the blanket over me would seem to freeze into a position not allowing me to move, and I also would find my hands tied together once Teresa had left the room. Teresa was doing this to me, but I couldn't figure out how, because I never saw her do it, but I know it had to be her. After a few days, Teresa said that I would also need to work for John because he was paying for all the hospital expenses. She told me that tonight there will be a video shown on the wall in front of me. She said that I needed to do whatever the video instructed me to do. My night nurse, Kathy, was also involved with this and would help me get set up before the video started. The first night I was to do this, I remember seeing shadows walking by the ICU observation windows. I believe the shadows were people or a person that went into the room next door to mine. The projector must have been above my head and then would shine on the wall in front of me. The first night was a bust because it seemed as though they couldn't get the projector to work. I was up more than half the night waiting for this, but then fell asleep. The next night came. This time they were able to get the video going. It was a video showing how to assemble a machine gun. This was a toy gun for a video game. The pieces that I had to assemble somehow magically came up through the mattress. I was able to grab these pieces and assemble them in the dark. I thought this job might not be too bad. That was it for the night, and I thought that this was going to be a good job. The next night I was going to be able to use the gun with the video on the wall. I don't remember much about the game, but I remember getting very tired and waving them off, hoping that they would understand. As time went on, the games got harder and I just couldn't keep up at all. I just kept waving them off. I remember I was getting very mad. I now found myself still in my room, but in some kind of a boat. I remember I was able to lift up the seat cushions and take them apart by undoing the threads that held them together and then removing everything that was stored under them. There were fishing poles and fishing strings and hundreds of lures, hooks and bobbers tied on to the strings. These lures, hooks, and bobbers were spaced apart about every 10 inches. Every once in a while, there would be a fish hooked. There were also fishing nets and weight scales. I had thrown all this on the floor. I remember the nurse walking by stopped and asked me what I was doing. I just looked at her. Then she just walked away. The next day I was lying in bed. Teresa was next to me. Then all of a sudden things started to happen. First I found my legs under the water. Then all the stuff that I had pulled out from under the seats of the boat the day before had appeared along with the seat covers that I had taken apart. I guess John was getting back at me for what I had done. I then looked at Teresa and she looked at me. I knew she could see what was on the bed, but she was just ignoring it. Finally, she got up and left the room. I was thinking she went out to John to tell him to stop what he was doing to me. Before Teresa came back to the room, everything was gone from the bed, including the water. Teresa started pleading for me to help John. I just shook my head no. Teresa then started getting mad at me. She said that if I didn't continue helping John, that she was going to leave me. I was wishing that I could speak and tell her that I just couldn't keep up anymore because I was just too tired to do it. The next morning, someone came into my room and beat the heck out of me. I don't remember who. Then Teresa came in and she said she was leaving me for good. She took off her rings and left. Later in the day, I saw Teresa through the observation window. She was standing out in the hall. She had a witch's hat on and was laughing at me and saying that she was hoping for me to die. Later that evening, Kathy, my nurse, was in the room and was trying to have her help me sit up. I thought if she could set me up that I could walk and get out of this place. Kathy couldn't read my lips well enough to know what I was trying to ask her to do. I'm thinking if I can't get out of here that I will be killed tonight. I then fell asleep, but then was awakened by Teresa. She had packed our bags and said that we were leaving. We left that night and we took a jet to another hospital. We had no money, so we could only stay in these hospitals for a short period of time, and then would leave in the middle of the night and fly to another one. We did this for a while, but then I started to die. It turned out that Rick's good half could not live without the bad half. I then died again. I hoped that this was finally going to be it and it would be over for good. But again, I found myself alive. But this time I was in a Spanish hospital. Everyone around me was speaking Spanish, but they were calling me Rick. This did not go on very long because I was now actually able to start opening my eyes. After 2.5 months of darkness, I'm finally opening my eyes. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please click on the like and subscribe buttons. And don't forget, if you haven't seen part 1, to click on the link below in the description box. We'll see you again. Bye now.